Oh, and I'm sending you stuff this week.
Okay. I like stuff.
You'll receive 2 things.
2 things?
Yes.
In the same package or 2 separate packages?
Separate.
Noted. I will let you know. I'll give you a receipt of when received. Oh my goodness. Just got an alert. Today is my Twitter anniversary. I've been on Twitter for 9 years.
That's wild. We are live. We are live.
What? Have you ever seen that classic wrestling? I guess I'd call it a blooper. There's a guy getting interviewed. His name is Psycho Sid Vicious. And the guy interviewing him, he's like, "What do you think of that match?" And he's like, "I'll tell you what I think. I think that he came out there and oh, I'm so sorry. Can we redo that?" And they're live. They're live. It's a live pay-per-view. And the guy doing the interview, just like he's like, "I'm sorry. Can I redo that?" And the interviewer goes, "We can't. We're live, pal." And they just cut the feed. Go back to the commentary. I'll send you the clip. One of the all-time greats.
That's hilarious. I love stuff like that, dude.
There's another classic moment he had where there were 2 guys in the wrestling ring, and one of them had like prosthetics on his face to make him look like Psycho Sid. So Psycho Sid comes out, and again, it's live TV, and he's like, "What kind of moron is out here in the middle of the ring? I'll tell you what, everybody here knows that you're half the man that I am, and I only have half a brain." He like completely flubbed his line. Basically, it's like
Psycho Sid's a TV nightmare.
Admits that he's got half a brain.
I'm about to blow your mind with this first topic, dude.
That's another. Oh, I'm ready.
I'm about to blow your little.
You know what? I love
off.
the fact that I'm flying blind this week. I don't even know what your topics are.
I know. I'm so excited.
Down. I'm totally down.
I love just hitting you with it sometimes. I really do. I do it a lot. 20 seconds till greatness.
I'm gonna get a drink of water.
Yeah, you better do that. Real quick. Go, Mike, go. Go, Mike, go. Chug, 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 chug. We are here. Today is the day. I'm gonna wind down the music. Ooh, episode 14 of the LFTG Podcast. Last one of the year.
Last one of the year, 2020.
Last one of 2020. So let's make it a good one. I'm your host, Refresh, and sitting next to me, kinda not really, but as always is
On the other end of the digital void, it's Mohawkmike.
woo Mohawkmike in the house. We got some juicy topics for you. I actually had a mildly hard time finding topics this week, but not really all at the same time. I have 2 discussion pieces and 2 small topics, but let's bounce right into the first topic. So, as you know, there has been GAs in Call of Duty. Now, it is no longer just weapons and attachments, maps have started to get GA'd. We've had a map. It's mostly in challengers. I think this is going to come to a screeching halt here pretty soon with the GAs. I think people are going to realize that they're kind of making a mistake. We need to start bridging that gap of competitive and casual community, and GAs are not the way. But in so no one wants to play this map called Cartel. Not a good competitive map. There's just the lane, one of the lanes goes super far out. It's very useless, and then in the middle there's just a bunch of bushes that you can just hide in. There's a couple of things that make the map uncompetitive, but that's not the map that was GA'd. After Raid came out, people stopped playing arguably the best map in the game on Hardpoint, which is Crossroads. So there's a couple of teams that just refuse to play Crossroads. So I don't know what that's all about, but I'm assuming that's going to change. I saw Optic scrimming it earlier this week, but Raid should make its way into the rotation, and Cartel should start to just wither away. No one was playing Cartel even before Raid came out. Cartel is just not a good one. Not a good one to do at all. But yeah, what do you... It's more GA talk, man. I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of all these GAs. They need to go away, man.
The crazy thing is we're just still in the launch for Cold War. So obviously there's going to be bugs and there's going to be hiccups, but the fact that we have gentlemen agreements to not play maps, to not use weapons, like the players are taking the game and forming it and shaping it into what they want to see, while Activision as the developer seems like they're slow to react and not necessarily being as receptive to. Now we don't know, like the CDL could have, behind closed door conversations about everything that's going on, addressing player concerns, but the players are just not having it. They're gonna play it the way they want to play.
I think this might low key be a product of the players used to not having communication with the developer, and them just kind of doing it out of habit instead of like actually waiting to see what things flesh out. But speaking of not being in the season, that's a good transition, because the CDL first week might have accidentally been leaked on Hector's podcast. I don't know if you saw this, but so Formal and Dashy, they both live in Southern California right now. However, they're going to be moving to Dallas, and in the Optic podcast, Envoy was saying, well, we'll have enough time to scrim because when they move here, which is at the end of this month, because they're waiting until after the holiday, they'll still have 6 weeks until the season starts. So Envoy unknowingly may have leaked that the CDL season may not even be starting until February. Kill me. Kill me. I think Call of Duty is actually in danger right now. I think what we have is we have a game with a really cranked up skill-based matchmaking that it can be honestly kind of hard to grind in pubs, and there's, besides new maps coming out and new weapons and like leveling up, there's no real reason to grind this game. I think the season needs to start here pretty soon, and ranked play. We need ranked play. Give people a reason to play this game. Right now, I mean, I'm still having a lot of fun with it, but we need to keep the casual community engaged. I think they should have taken advantage of a lot of people getting this game for the holiday and dropping ranked at that time to kind of start to ease people in. They already have a CDL content pack, which is what you're seeing on the screen, which is skins for the game already. So I do think that's cool. But yeah, we need ranked. We need more.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they're potentially waiting to start the season until February, because again, like, you have to wait. Everybody, not just the players themselves are on holiday break, but also all the employees as well.
Right.
It's going to be not only a rough start to the start of the year, but then also the transition into again for Cold War. And I think you hit the biggest compartment there, is that if the casual community is not interested in playing the game, why are they going to be interested in watching the game?
Yeah, I think we're in this weird middle ground. Is we need to find a balance of kind of when to start the season. I feel like Black Ops 4 had a super early CW before the CDL was the CDL. They had the CWL. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so the CWL Las Vegas Open in 2019 for Black Ops 4 came out. What the first event of that season? Obviously, the game always comes out in October or early November. The game after the game came out, the first event was held December 7th and 9th. Because we went there for that event, which is super early for the first event, but it also there was a ton of teams. There was a ton of
Mm-hmm.
AN teams there. There was like I want to say like I mean they that was on the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
5,000 seat house for main stage, and they sold out main stage, and they sold out another 2,000 seat room for the side stage.
Yeah.
So I mean, for it being that early in the year, I think they did a really good job then. So I don't really, I think waiting, it's a good and bad thing. Obviously, you get to iron out competitive settings just a little bit more, but I think you might lose some of that excitement. But we'll see. People are still excited about Warzone. People are still playing Call of Duty. Lando Norris was on the Courage and Nade Shot show, and he talked about the CDL actually, even though he just plays Warzone. So the awareness there for the CDLs here. But enough about Call of Duty. Let's talk about Counter Strike and Cloud9. Talk to me.
Yeah, we got a very interesting piece of news earlier this week. Cloud9 dropped their Counter-Strike Global Offensive coach. So for anyone who isn't aware, that within Counter-Strike, within pretty much all major esports
Mm-hmm.
now, you have the role of coach has become very, very important, and one that is highly contested. No more is it just former pros that step in and try and like direct the team, but the fact that a lot of these teams have huge venture capital behind them, huge investments, potential stakeholders as well. Cloud9 was recently they signed Cassid 4 months ago. Only 4 months ago, he stepped into this role, and they already announced as of yesterday that he is being let go. The contract is terminated, being let go. Cloud9 in more recently the last few months hasn't really performed that well, at least up to expectations, and so that's it. No second chances. You're out. Start of
Yep.
the year, starting fresh, and we're going to keep going. And I think this sets a real precedence to how heavy the role of coach is really playing in the current landscape. Again, it's not just within League of Legends, we see that it's very prominent. Those coaches are highly respected. They get a lot of time on broadcast. They get a lot of attention as far as their tactics and training the teams. And now we're seeing that also in coaching has always been a big deal, especially like in games like Halo. Like some of those coaches are just as legendary as the actual players themselves.
Call of Duty is
But the
like
fact
that
that,
now with Crowder and JCap too. So
yeah, is to have an individual signed on to a major team, which was potentially a major deal, didn't even last 4 months. I think that shows how serious the scope is for all of these teams going forward.
I'm just looking at because you got me curious about Cloud9's right. I'm looking at their just kind of their last 10 games that they've played, and they've lost half.
Yeah.
So 0-2 to OG, 0-2 to Mouse, 0-2 to Gambit, 0-2 to Mouse again, and then 4Z. So they're losing pretty significant matches, and they're like one they barely won against Complexity, and Complexity hasn't really been that great of a team in a long time. But they've lost a couple of B tier matches, and even gone to game 3 against another B tier team in Pact. They almost lost that series as well. So maybe there was just kind of like a disconnect on like the communication between the coach and the players. I mean, sometimes it happens. I think coaching in esports is super hard because you either have to be a former player or you have to have the respect from the players that you kind of have to be able to play on the side. Whether you were a professional or not, you kind of have to know how to maneuver around the game so like when your players are complaining, what they're complaining about and why. I feel like it's a very important skill to have as a coach in esports particularly that a lot of people don't actually have.
Well, and for someone like me who's was born and raised, basically grew up in the Cincinnati,
Mhm.
Ohio area, like for me, like I look at the traditional sports team like the Cincinnati Bengals that have had terrible years, and a lot of the times it comes back on the coach.
Mhm.
Why did we go 8-8 this season? If you go 8-8 and break even, like that was pretty standard for the Cincinnati Bengals when I was growing up. And it's one of those things, the coaches stay throughout the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that now within esports, like coaches are being just let go without having more opportunity to prove themselves. If Cloud9 went 50-50 as far as their matches with him being coach, and now he's let go, that's a way different mindset than signing an actual coach in a traditional sports league versus the esports world. And it's interesting to see.
I mean,
and
but Cloud9 was playing really well this last year, and like especially in 2019 they played really well. So I think 50-50 was definitely a big step down. And like I said, maybe there was just a disconnect with preparation, or maybe you hope the coach is doing their job, but maybe in it being online right now, maybe a lot of the work wasn't actually getting done. Those are the only two reasons why I could see this even happening. Or there's an announcement yet, and the coach got bought out.
Yeah, could be. Never know.
But let's get on to some fighting game stuff.
Yeah, this is actually an event that happened a few weeks back. It's one of those things that I had it on my radar and I checked it out, but I actually spent a lot more time this week going back and actually watching it. So there's an organization based out of the Ukraine that goes by the name of WePlay.
Mm-hmm.
They recently hosted a invitational tournament for Mortal Kombat 11. And not only did they invite the top players to the Ukraine, they had an in-studio broadcast event, which is, very odd right now in this whole pandemic world that we live in. But they brought out talent. They brought out commentators. They had commentators that were like Mustard and Ketchup were doing commentary online. They weren't actually there in the studio. It was this really cool LAN atmosphere, but kind of like also components of like online broadcasts, that we're kind of more used to. But anybody who isn't aware of the event or maybe missed it, definitely go back and check out their after movie. And it's one of those things that, like, for me, looking like older like Counter-Strike events or Quake events and stuff like that, everybody always, you didn't just watch the VOD. You didn't just click on the VOD and watch it. Those weren't always so readily available. People would actually edit. They would make after movies, and it's basically like the highlights from the event. It could be from specific matches or whatever it may be. Not only is the after movie for this WePlay Mortal Kombat event fantastic, literally the event overall, they literally rebuilt a Mortal Kombat temple in the studio.
That's sick.
They had an amazing trophy, which is the image that we're showing here.
Mm-hmm.
They had the winner also won a championship ring akin to like what you would see in traditional sports, and just everything they did, all the touches that they did in between. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. We know that ESL is wanting to kind of step in new grounds as far as like player focused content and new production heights and things that they're working on with their new studio. I think WePlay has already achieved it. And they've also had different kind of promoters that have kind of like come in and touched base with them after the fact to just say how incredible it was. The only downside is that people look at it and like, oh, well, Mortal Kombat 11, like who's going to watch that? Why is that such a big deal? If they take this formula and apply it to any other esport or any other game out there, or continue with Mortal Kombat 11, we had seen previously with Machinima, they were trying to do body count, which was more of like a fight club kind of atmosphere, a weekly YouTube series where it's like actual matches. This player plays this player, and then they're the champion. They'll play this player next week. And there's a lot of different formats and broadcast, techniques that are being applied. And it's just very exciting to see.
Yeah, I think a production like this could really help out a scene like Mortal Kombat in general, or any scene really can use content this well produced. I haven't got a chance to see the actual the after movie for WePlay, but WePlay has kind of been on the radar lately as one of those production teams that is starting to do a very good job with just the quality. The quality alone is entertainment. Even if you're not a fan of Mortal Kombat, like I'm probably gonna watch it after this, and I'll be thrilled with it just because WePlay has always done an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of events, we're gonna move on to the reload. And the thing I want to talk about this time around is crowdfunding. There's a lot of crowdfunding talk. We touched on this a little bit a while ago as possible formats for the CDL, but now there's a big talk floating around the CDL room of what could crowdfunding do for the scene. And I just wanted to talk about crowdfunding in general. If you guys don't know what crowdfunding is when a developer puts something into the game that you can purchase, And the community, when they purchase that, it goes to the prize pot for their championship bracket. The best example of this is the international, hands down. And we kind of had this for the first time. Well, not for the first time. Melee does it with Summit, and then you had it for the first time with an online event with LAC, Ludwig's tournament. That was all crowdfunded as well. He put up a big portion of it, but a lot of it was crowdfunded. I think something like crowdfunding for a game like Call of Duty would be astronomical. The amount would be ridiculous. And I think the misconception here is you don't even really need to market it as a crowdfunding for esports. All you have to do is put it in the description. Hey, the purse for the money for this will go into the purse for this year's world championship. And you just make a sick weapon skin, sick operator skin. You just make it the best looking thing in the game just to entice people to buy it, because people will buy it, especially if you can use it in Warzone 2.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so good. But I think crowdfunding is an option that a lot of these developers should start looking at. We saw Halo Infinite had the Monster Energy drink skin coming in the next Halo game. So I could see something, if they're experimenting with brands, I can see them doing an HCS style skin, which Halo's already done crowdfunding, but they didn't have a specific skin for it. It was just reg packs during a certain amount of time. But I think what developers could do is just make one item per game the crowdfunding source. And I would love to see like a $10 million Call of Duty tournament. I think games like Smash is one of those things where like you look at how much we give to charity. If we start hosting more charities and we say, hey, 50% of this goes to charity, but 50% also goes to the prize pool, you can start seeing. I think we would actually be able to start seeing games even like Smash start getting those higher prize pools that the players think they deserve.
Yeah.
But I that's is without developer support, you know. Like you had a $4.2 million tournament, but if you had a $4.2 million tournament with development support, imagine what it could be with crowdfunding on top of that. It could be, and you can make it a really good incentive for the CDL teams, you know, like I think the league overall would do a lot better. You know, they might be able to save $4.2 million every year. Instead of putting it towards champs, they can make better skins for the teams to sell to gain some of their revenue back. I think it's just one of those things that could stack on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a proven method. It's a proven business strategy that we've already seen effective. We've seen it with Halo. We see it every year now with the Capcom Cup for Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the biggest example is the international with Valve and Dota 2. And there's a lot of unique things that you could do to where you could do like limited time cosmetic items that you can download. You could do them. You can make them team based. You know, it's not just so much an incentive of, hey, we want to get the prize pot as high as we can. But if you use the example of the international, the reason why that prize pot gets so high is because when you buy the compendium, that's so much more content you're actually getting out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these quests, you're trying to unlock these items. It's not just, you know, hey, I'm buying this skin and, you know, half of the proceeds are going to the prize pot.
It's almost like a DLC pack in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are some different things that you could try. I don't know specifically in the example of like Call of Duty.
It would be weapon skins. It would have to be a weapon skin.
Yeah. It would have to be weapon skins, and I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what else they could do. They could, in theory, do a compendium to where it's like you gain XP for doing certain challenges and stuff like that, and then you get the unlocks, or you get an option like you unlock, you know, points that you can use to unlock certain unlocks, and then you trying to get all of that throughout the season. You know, I'm just trying to think, how do you get more value out of it?
Listen, Activision, if you're listening from your super tall tower. You have I'm not speaking into a megaphone here, but Activision, you have the battle pass, and then for 3 months for one season, you have a limited time, but like you almost have a second battle pass where you can get, where it's almost like the same thing as Dota. You can make unlockables for these certain tiers, so you have 2 battle passes. The competitive one's just a lot harder. You have to grind a lot more, but I think that would create a lot of content replayability. Also, it would create that funding to have bigger and better tournaments. I think something like that just the crowdfunding aspect of it, I think a lot more people would put their eyes into Call of Duty without even being into Call of Duty, because I watch the International. I don't play any Dota. I don't even have it downloaded on my computer.
I think a lot of people do, because even just seeing the headline, like people who don't follow esports or even specifically Dota, when you see there's a $40 million tournament that's happening, you're like, whoa, what is this? You're going to check it out.
Yeah. And I think it's good PR. And speaking of PR, my second discussion topic of today was PR in esports. We talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago when Rodney was on the podcast, and then we touched on a little bit after the whole documentary thing with Metagame. But I don't want to talk about player PR. I want to talk about developer and esports organization PR, because I feel like that's a big area that's missed, especially on the developer side. Right now, Activision's a little bit of hot water with no ranked play. Dr. Disrespect also tweeted out that saying this is the worst Warzone update that he's ever seen. But I think he forgot about the Doof Doof, which was the automatic fire shotgun that literally ruled the streets of Verdansk for 3 months with no update. So the Doof Doof, way worse than what we have right now. Right now we have a DMR and mag. At least everybody could run around and shoot. But the Doof Doof, people were just hanging out in buildings. Anyway, not the point. But right now, I feel like there's a couple of things that some of these organizers in particular, how they handle cheating and how they handle managing their bracket. I don't feel like there's the community as a whole is making very good PR moves, especially with everything being online right now, and there's kind of like this cheating movement happening. But we did have a good example of what should have been good PR with the Valorant cheating scandal that happened a couple weeks ago. Those TOs actually handled that very well. However, they let it leak into the light of day, and I think the wrong person tweeted about the cheating. But how would you, if someone gets caught, like, how do you handle bad PR as an organizer? Even if you do everything right, what do you do to just make sure the tournament still runs smoothly and everybody that's playing in the tournament is still happy at the end of the day? Because I think there's a big difference of people playing in the tournament that are happy and people on the outside looking in that are giving you the bad press. What do you think? What do you think about that?
It obviously it kind of depends, like situation to situation. But the biggest, like we saw in the example with the Pittsburgh Knights and that situation with their Valorant tournament, the very first thing is like full transparency.
Yep.
Try and handle the situation as best you can with both parties, and then try and let them be known, as far as like what you can do for resolution or what the next steps are going forward. But again, once as soon as it hit light of day, they were fully transparent. They were like, hey, this is these are the allegations, these are the actions that were taken, this is the conversations that happened, this was the ruling. Oh, excuse me, and this is why things are happening the way they are. And not just that, but one of the best things that you could do is have a lot of prep work before the event even starts.
Yeah.
There are so many things that, and I know that I can't really speak on your behalf, but I know that you have the same mindset. You have to think of every scenario possible and get that stamped out and labeled within the rule book and the procedures before the event even starts. Because if you encounter a situation like that, it's all up to interpretation, and somebody is not going to agree with that interpretation. It doesn't matter who you are or what the situation is, how many tournaments you've run, there's always going to be claims of like player privilege, pro privilege.
Yeah, the player privilege thing. That happened with our last series. We had the team that won the last qualifier, they were seeded first. And the team seeded second had played in the most recent tournament. But in seeding the series, I looked at the LFTG events as a whole, and I seeded the players based on how I knew they would perform. And after this team that got seeded second lost in the final to the team that got seeded first, luckily it was in a DM. And they came to me, they're like, hey, why were they seeded first and not why weren't we seeded first? And it kind of took me back for a second. I was like, well, you just Like, why are you complaining about not having first seed when you just lost to the guys with first seed? Like, it was one of those moments. I feel like being in a tournament organization standpoint, I have like three rules. I have like three main rules. Have your rule set ready. Production as a TO, I mean production matters, but your bracket needs to be on time more so than your bracket takes precedent over your production. If your production has to suffer a 10-minute delay so your bracket can be on time, that's fine. Get 10 minutes of filler. Bracket rule set, bracket, and then pay your players, because the one thing that people will freak out about 100% of the time as a TO is people not getting paid. I have paid players, and I've had them come back into my Discord and be like, "Hey, where's my payment?" And I immediately, I don't, obviously I hide all the information, but I screenshot the payment and I put it right there for everybody to see. Be like, boom, payment, and I tell everybody, payments are paid out the following Sunday. Every tournament we have, payments are paid out the following Sunday. If you don't receive a payment, then there was probably an issue. And we've only ever had an issue once, but it was a technical thing. It wasn't even an issue.
Yeah.
But I think right now we have a couple of cases where these, especially in this online world, is these TOs need to really learn how to manage a situation like cheating. Go back to your rule book, make a logical decision. Don't blow it up out of proportion first. Reach out to not even the players. If the players have an org, reach out to the organization first and go from there. I feel like there's a lot of mismanagement, and the biggest mismanagement I've ever seen from a BR nightmare was actually a Smash event and I was attending in person. And I think you already know what Smash event it was. It was summer of 2019 at a beautiful water park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the bracket just did not run well, but with the bad PR that came after, the bad PR that came out after was even worse. There was a lot of misdirection in the blame, and I think there was a lot of people that kind of took the fall for something that they shouldn't have taken the fall for. And there's some people that should have taken the fall that kind of
got away squeaky clean.
Got away a little cleaner than what they should have. But I think these TOs, these organizers, even these organizations need to start tiptoeing, because I think in the age of the internet right now, we're all kind of walking on glass. And just don't do anything dumb on the internet. That's mostly what I want to talk about. Is don't do anything dumb. If you're gonna do anything dumb, just make sure no one else is in the room. keep that shit to yourself, man. But we might have our up and coming esport. That's an esport.
If the pandemic has done anything, it's helped a lot of games and communities that would not have normally gotten the spotlight have wild success. We've seen like the growth of Among Us. We saw the viralness that was Fall Guys. And now we've seen it throughout this entire year for a game that's literally older than the internet itself. It's older than video games. It's older and predates anything else that's currently out there.
It's older than the United States.
Yes.
Think about that.
We were talking about chess, which we have seen crazy viewership for. We're seeing more and more tournaments that are being broadcasted online, and we're seeing more and more players who are actually being signed on to professional esports teams. We envy the non-hoodie selling winning esports organization has signed chess players. We've seen TSM. And we're seeing just this wild growth, but for a game that is it technically an esport? It's a traditional tabletop game that's now being played competitively online. It's being broadcasted. There are prize pots. There's obvious rule sets. Does this version of this millennia old game is this now an esport?
100%, hands down, 100%. I think it is, and I think honestly. I think a big surge of this might come from a Netflix series called Queen's Gambit. A lot of people be like that show in the same way that, do you remember Hustlers or The Color of Money? It's a movie about pool. those movies about pool helped pool back in the 80s and 90s. I think the same way Queen's Gambit is helping chess now. There's a movie out, and then there's a platform. There's a lot of people taking advantage of the platform already, and I think just the combination of people playing chess online and seeing the series and getting into it from like an emotional perspective and starting to actually learn the game. And I think this viewership increase is also due to people wanting to learn how to play chess even better, because chess is a pretty Ashton got me a chess board for Christmas. Everyone's playing chess right now. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. No, but I do think 100% it is an esport. I mean, obviously you see like Madden and 2K where they have physical versions, but we play a digital version. It's a little different because it's virtual chess, and chess in theory are the same game.
Right.
And speed chess can actually be played a little bit more effectively online, believe it or not, because you can do your moves in advance. So your moves auto clock in, so you can just make super hard reads, which is something you can't do in person. Obviously, you have to physically move the piece. But you see a version of speed chess now where people are actually playing ahead of time. It's a full read, it's a full prediction. They think we're gonna go here, and you see the game board laid out. And I've seen some games of chess end in 5 seconds. Yeah. It's like I have to go back and watch it in like 0.25, just like staring at the screen. But I do think this is a good type of esport, and I do think it's really smart some of these organizations to pick up some of these grandmasters in chess that even when the physical game comes back, I think they'll still be really well represented, and it's kind of turning this the sport into the sport full of really non-personalities into internet personalities and really shining a spotlight. And I think that's something new for chess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Chess has always had its megastars. Like you look at, like you were saying, like even going back, 20, 30 years ago, look at the success of Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Mm-hmm.
And, there have been these like chess, personalities that have like hit, touch pop culture. But the other aspect of this that I've kind of like I've been mentally like dealing with is like I feel like yes, in this current iteration, I would classify chess as an esport. It's hard for me to get over that hump only because to me it's a physical tabletop game.
Yeah.
I was on the chess team in high school, so for me playing chess online is something that I didn't necessarily care to do, but I do see where this is. It's obviously competitive. There's huge prize pots. There are professional players, there are rankings, like we said, like same with League of Legends. Like if you hit Grandmaster in chess, then you're obviously a pro.
Yeah.
But one of the other angles that I'm like really using it to help me kind of understand this is the same thing that's happening right now with Magic the Gathering, which is a physical tabletop card game. They finally came out with an online version that is very fluid to play, very easy to watch. Watching Magic the Gathering, the tabletop portion on Twitch, go back 3-4 years ago, was horrible. And they had the top broadcast team. They did everything they could to make watching it as enjoyable as possible. But people who played Magic the Gathering, whether professionals or even just casuals, did not watch. They had a hard time staying on and watching it for long periods of time. But now with Arena, it's so much easier to get in, because when you are playing Magic the Gathering Arena and watching it, it's basically one and the same.
I'm surprised with the resurgence of, the increase of popularity of Pokemon cards. I'm surprised Pokemon hasn't tried to do the same thing.
So Pokemon, interestingly, they have been doing a lot more with online. They do have their online version of the card game. A lot of the popularity that's swirling around right now is just based off it's more of the nostalgia and treasure hunt rather than the actual care. Anybody that's paying $20,000 for a Charizard is not actually going to play that in the card game. They're going to take that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying there's a lot of people buying new packs, and those new packs have QR codes. So I'm surprised they're not marketing and advertising that a little bit more on their Play Pokemon game. That's just a thought I had. But all in all, more people are starting to watch things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is chess the reason? What's the reason? Tell me why more people apparently are watching esports than ever.
Well, we're at the end of the year, and once again, viewership numbers have grown exponentially. beating, even in some instances, even beating the projections of how far esports viewership was going to grow within this year, within the last decade. We specifically we look at esports charts, which is an organization that basically tries to track and gather all these analytics as best they can. They logged that for League of Legends Worlds this year, there were over across all the platforms that were streaming it, that where people could watch, and all the different international flavors of the broadcast, that there was over 2.8 million concurrent viewers at its peak. Now, obviously, League of Legends has always been popular. We hear all the time about how esports is starting to challenge traditional sports, traditional broadcast. I know that, like, working events, I've worked events where the viewership at that time was higher than whatever major sports
Yeah.
broadcast was going on at that time. We also saw back at the start of the pandemic, we saw IEM Katowice
Yep.
with Counter-Strike Go again break 1 million viewers on Twitch, which is always insane to see. And that was really the first event that happened within the current state of the pandemic where there was no crowd. The stadium was fully set up. It had all the flair and pop-up circumstance of every event that has happened before, but the viewership, not only did it hover around the same, but also started to see like spikes as far as going up.
Yep.
And that's, people were not there to watch the event either. So not only are we seeing the viewership grow because of the pandemic and people were forced at home and they're trying to watch, but also just more eyes are getting onto it, especially with the popularity of consuming this content. I think the games themselves are at such a peak crucial time. Broadcast and production is way better than it's ever been before.
Yeah, it's on par with traditional sports now. Like you can now go watch some traditional sports and you can actually point out some flaws in their layouts now, as opposed to some video games that have tournaments. Like, I was watching an NFL game last week. I think it was on, is it NBC? And like, someone moved the logo for one of the teams. It just went like down and to the right. I'll have to go back and find it. It just went down to, or like someone edited it live on like OBS. I was like, that wouldn't have happened in the CDL. I was like, I noticed it. I was like, I had to go back and watch it. No, but yeah, no, this week for not this week, but this last year for viewership overall, there is just records being broken left and right. The most viewership for Call of Duty, even after the switch to YouTube, which people were very skeptical about that at first. They were like, there's no way they're even going to get half. Viewership records during the regular season, broken. During champs, broken. All year it kept happening. Even some of the Halo tournaments didn't have bad viewership. I mean, just the other week, the Melee event that Ludwig hosted was getting like 50K. Yo, Booza, thank you so much for the sub. But even they were getting like, even Ludwig's channel was getting like 50K streaming Melee. Like, there's the viewership this last year has just been phenomenal. And I can't wait to see what it's like. I hope there's a lot of new fans coming to these scenes, so when live events do happen again, I think everyone's going to be excited to go, and I think everyone's going to go. I mean, I know as soon as I get the okay to go to a live event, I'm going. I don't care.
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody's clamoring for it, but this has become the new normal.
Yeah.
Being able to sit, forced to sit at home and watch these events. I would normally watch these events anyway, but also people that are looking for things. Once you've kind of cycled through Netflix and Hulu and all of this stuff, and you go into the YouTube rabbit hole and you start discovering these things, like actually watching these events is more of a release, and it's getting people more engaged in actually watching it.
There's no off season for it though. There's no off season for esports. I mean, there's time where there's not football happening. There's a time where there's no basketball happening. And right now, no soccer's happening. But you know what you can watch all year round is esports. You can find an event every weekend, and I think more and more people are trying. Actually, I think the cross viewership from one game to another is growing, because that's what people have to watch right now. And I think it's one of those industries that just kind of thrived in the situation that we were in.
Absolutely.
Nuts, Mike. It's nuts. I didn't think it was going to go off this year. I was worried about it, actually. I really was.
Oh, yeah. So I've been doing an online internship with a company that basically all they do is they track sponsorships. And they had no one in that company covering esports prior to March of this year. That's how much it's entered into the ecosphere of, it being on everybody's radar. The
Yep.
fact that when the NBA and the NFL and every major sports league out there was not operating, Twitch was up and running, esports was up and running. It never ceased to stop.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how Twitch's overall numbers did, because you had a lot of big stars come in. You had Lando Norris come in. You had Neymar come in. Just some political figures actually coming in as well. So I'd be curious to see like the overall. A lot of people switched over to YouTube as well. YouTube is a good place for streaming apparently now.
Well, a Mixer went under, so that's that. There again, that's more
That's true. Yeah,
talent, and 3 viewers that came back over to Twitch.
that's not really a good example, Mike.
Just saying.
Yeah, and Facebook gaming, crazy. All right, but you have an event. I don't have an event this week because I got to plan an event.
I don't have an event this week, but what I wanted to do is it's technically an event because I'm precursing the launch of a new product, and I just wanted to give this organization some spotlight because I think it's a really cool idea conceptually. So there's a new organization. It actually got announced a few weeks ago called Leyline.
Okay.
And their entire operation is that if you were to take all of the gaming PCs throughout the world and have them linked together and solve like high intensive computer, mathematical problems, then there are a lot of things that can be taken care of. I know that like when I was in junior high and high school, every computer in the computer lab, every computer within the classroom had a program on it called Folding at Home. And the way that worked is that it would take your computer, you would sign up for the program, and then when your computer went to go into sleep mode, rather than go into sleep mode, it would actually crunch DNA algorithms to try and figure out like, okay, for like these diseases that are things that we kind of know what causes it and we know what could possibly cure it, the computer can run the program for you and crunch all the numbers. And so what Leyline is doing is basically the same thing. Leyline is like, hey, if we had a supercomputer that could crunch this math and work out all these numbers for us, we could cure certain things that are ailing the earth. We could cure diseases and things like that. So Leyline was started by Jeremy Della Rosa, formerly of Blizzard.
Yeah.
And this is the new kind of like charity organization that he started. And the promise is that, if you have a super beefy gaming PC, or even your rig that you use to stream with, or a standard laptop, whatever it is, by basically using all of this computer resource to kind of form together as one, it's going to solve issues. And the real catch here is that by signing up for this program, the more time that you log and the more information that you help them gather, the more that you're actually going to unlock as far as in-game items. They already have a few partners that they're working with, so you could get loot boxes. You could get, skins for inside games, just by using the service that is running while you're asleep or out of the house.
Yeah.
So I think it's super neat. It's still kind of in the process of being set up, but if you want to check them out, again, the name is Leyline. Check them out, sign up for the program. Worst case scenario, you can give it a try and then just completely never do anything with it. Best case scenario, we start tackling some real world issues and everybody's getting 3080s and Ryzen 9s and all this stuff. Put it to good use aside from just running 1080p by 60.
Besides running Minecraft at 500 frames.
There you go.
No, I do think a product like this is phenomenal. Computing power is just a market that I don't think people quite understand. That a lot of these issues can be resolved by more computing power, because crunching numbers does take time, and if you can develop more resources into crunching those numbers, you can really simplify some of these world problems. And I'm definitely gonna look into Leyline. This is the first time it's really come up for me, but a concept like this is just massive. Creating one big supercomputer and really, maybe we could have handled the situation that 2020 gave us a little bit better if we would have had this product earlier.
Absolutely.
Maybe we would have figure something else out.
they're doing something right by offering incentives for people that that want to do that. I would probably sign up for it even if I didn't get any in-game currency or other cool prizes or swag to go with it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what games that they end up partnering with. I wonder if it's going to be like Blizzard focused games or just because of the connection.
I feel like Blizzard is like an automatic. Like obviously, like their founder and CEO has connections there at Blizzard, having formerly worked there. I like Fortnite could be huge if Fortnite,
Fortnite,
every
Warzone.
yeah, Fortnite, Warzone, League of Legends, anything out there, like, and especially if they started doing stuff towards like developers are releasing exclusive skins you can only get through using Leyline, like that's a complete game changer.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how the business side of that works as far as like the cross promotion and the marketing, what the trade off is there for these developers to
Mhm.
have some of that. Obviously to do good, but like there's got to be a business catch to it at some point.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up. I'm going to pull up their website is leyline.gg. It's Leyline, and I'm trying to see. I know they had a list of causes that they specifically. I know one of them was global warming. I don't know words. I'm kind of scrolling through the website right now. Working together, we can defeat COVID, cancer, climate change, and so much more. So there are even things here that are outside of the scope of what anybody would think would be possible just running a computer simulation through your computer.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think it's coming at a phenomenal time as well. Maybe you could, like I said, maybe it's something that we could have used a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
Um, but we're coming down towards the end of the show. I mean, do you have anything else that you want to bring up? Obviously, if you're in chat, you can always ask a question about how certain things are developing in the esports scene, and if we have a reasonable answer, we'll give it to you. But if we don't know, we will just say that. But Mike, do you have
I
any?
think
You always have a little bit of spice at the end of the show. What do you got for me?
I'm just happy and safe. We made it through another year as a human race. That's the
Yeah,
biggest. Obviously, for a lot of us, the most trying times that we've experienced. Everyone just continue, be safe out there. Play games from home, compete in tournaments, run tournaments. There's a organization, an event that happens every year that I personally work with. It goes by the name of Frosty Faustings. It's a huge fighting game tournament that happens in January every year in Chicago. Been working with them as far as like what would something look like as far as doing an online tournament. How quickly can we organize this? Is this feasible even to happen? We're seeing more and more. The what was normal as far as running events, running lands, trying to shift online. There's so much labor that goes in behind it and so much stuff behind the scenes that nobody even sees. The same with like traditional in-person events
yeah.
that everybody's gotta come together, and it's like Dragon Ball Z, just everybody
Spirit
spirit
bomb.
bomb instead of just ragging on events or not competing or not giving viewership or whatever it is. Like we just got to pull together because soon enough this will all be behind us, and everybody's doing the best they can right now.
Well, even if you're in a scene where you don't feel like there's enough events or the events that are being hosted aren't that great and you feel like you can do a good job, just host events. Beg for just host events. It's super easy. I think a lot of people don't realize how little that you can put into a prize pot and people will still compete. Like if you have the resources and you have the community near you, just host events, allow people to sign up, and even if it's something that's really slow on signups, be like, hey, once we get 16 teams, we're going to start a bracket. Just do something simple, yeah. But yeah, let's round out this 2020 on this note. As a community, we all need to come together. Like I said, host events, do our part. I think we need to start giving more positive. Be critical about the games that come out, but start giving more positive ways. Bring up the problem, and then have a solution. Don't just bring up
Yep.
the problem. I feel like that's the one big thing that I learned from 2020 is we're too quick to complain. We're too quick to complain and not realize what the fix actually is. So as a community, I think we need to start finding fixes, have discussions amongst ourselves, and really just figure it out. But it's that time of night, Mike. Do you know what time of night it is?
Oh, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm ready to go to bed. We've only got a few more days until 2021 is upon us. Let's just be done.
Well, I'm gonna talk your little ears right to sleep right now, little baby boy. Because as the music slowly starts to come in and 2020 comes to a close, it's been a fantastic second half of the year as this podcast has really opened up my eyes to some of the fantastic things about all the different esports communities and how we can be better as people and how we can be better to the world. And I just want to say thank you guys for, may have been a rough year, but thank you guys for an awesome 2020. We will see you in 2021. This is your host, Refresh. We may have new merch and some tournament coming soon. Some fire in 2021. But I am your host, Refresh. Sitting next to me,
Is Mohawkmike.
This guy's sitting next to you. Dude, again. Hold on. I said shitting on accident.
Oh my god. It's all good.
It's okay.
Everybody, okay. A safe and happy new year. We'll see you guys in 2021. Have a great day, unless you made other plans. Leave it at that.
Unless you made other plans. All right, have a good... Bye.
Bye-bye.